virtually via Microsoft Teams. There are only 2 substantive agenda items that are presented in the draft agenda of today. Members, I would just like to take you to agenda item 3, which is the adoption of the agenda. I'd like to know from you if there are any comments or changes that you're suggesting to the agenda. I also like to specifically note Madam Simane that has already joined us. Any changes, members? By show of hands, please. If none, may we then proceed to indicate our adoption of the agenda by show of hands, please. Thank you, Madam Simane. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Thank you, Mr. Sbanda and Advocate Tole and Madam Maseti. Will then I also support the adoption of the agenda. So we'll proceed with the agenda as is. We're going to agenda item 4 on the declaration of interest. Just would like to know if there are any interest to declare verbally from members, and please do fill in the declaration of interest form and send it via email to Madam Masanganye. I take it that there are none. I also have got no interest to declare from my side. We'll then proceed to agenda item 5, which deals with the decision and reasons for decision on the tariff application by Transnet in Krugersdorp, the Talton facility in the Gauteng province for the period 1 April 2023 to 31st March 2024. Madam Twa and your team, may you please present this item, and please just give you not more than 4 minutes in presenting the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Kindly note that we also missed that Ms. Kagiso Sebake is also on sick leave and now recovering at home. May I kindly request that the HOD assist in terms of presenting the submission? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mtwa, and good morning, members. Good morning, colleagues. This is an application by Transnet, as indicated by the chairperson, for the Talton storage facility. And the purpose of the submission is to request members not to approve the tariff applied for by Transnet for the 2023-2024 financial year, and for PPS to approve the decision and reasons for decision document, which we have attached to the submission as Annexure A. Transnet applied for a tariff of 30.56 cents per litre for the 2023-24 financial year, and this is an increase of about 154% when compared to the tariff that was approved in respect of the 2022-23 financial year, which was 12.05 cents per litre. The increase is mainly due to the volume issues in the Talton storage facility and the clawbacks relating to those volume issues, wherein the actual volumes were very low compared to the volumes used in the determination of tariffs. We have highlighted, Chairperson, also the key issues in the submission, which relate to the volume the revenue clawback, and the issue of smoothing of the clawback, wherein Transnet claimed all the revenues for the preceding 3 financial years in this tariff determination. And also Transnet has also applied for an incremental tariff structure, which we discussed in the submission, Chairperson. With that, Chairperson would request that the PPS does not approve the tariff applied for, but approve the reasons and the decision and reasons for decision document, which you have attached as Annexure A. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Mboko. Members, any questions, guidance, or comments, please, by show of hands, would be appreciated. Mr. Kumete, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to you and management and members of the committee. My questions, Chair, are largely on page 8, emanate from page 8 of 14. And they are questions of clarity. So if I read paragraph 30, it just raised a question in my head. When we're looking at tariffs, do we approve a storage tariff or do we approve a throughput tariff? I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not sure if it makes sense in terms of what I'm saying. So, for instance, or rather, can I put it this way? Or do we consider the two to be the same? So, for instance, if we are looking at somebody that's coming to store something for whatever indefinite period of time, and you give them and we've got a tariff which, for instance, could be a number, rent per liter per month or per certain period, or proportions of that period, it then becomes a storage tariff, and therefore whatever that we are looking at could then talk to the table 4. However, if it's a throughput tariff, it's largely always just going to be rent per kilo, rent per liter, because that's dependent on a throughput. But now the question that arose with this submission is, when we approve these tariffs, what does the law provide us to do? So does it provide us with the ability to come up with those storage tariffs, or is it throughput tariffs, or the two are the same? So that is the fundamental question that I just have for clarity, Chair. And I'd like to also then maybe be assisted and pointed to the regulation itself. What does the regulation actually say? Because this is supposed to be in a manner prescribed by regulation. What does it actually say in this regard? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumete. Over to you, Mr. Sibanda, sir.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the team. Just a few questions of clarity from my side. Starting with paragraph 21 of the covering submission. So the revenue clawback that Transnet is applying for, part of the reason is that it's due to the late issuance of the 2019-20 tariff decision. And it's not clear to me but what caused that delay. I do agree with the recommendation reached regarding that particular the shortfall that was caused by that delay. The fact that a tariff continues to exist until there's a new tariff in place. But I was just wondering what caused that delay, because in most instances the licensees who actually apply late, but it's not apparent to me what then necessitated this particular delay. Maybe just for clarity, for Transnet to then make it an issue and want to claim a clawback based on that delay. And then on table 3, that's on page 6 of 14. The first issue that I wanted to check under the approved revenue column, the total, it would seem to me, and Chair, I'm assuming that those figures are not confidential, right? So I'm assuming that that total under approved revenue should actually be 76.87 and not the 78 that is indicated there. But what I was interested in finding out is, because we've got two scenarios there, one in which there was the old tariff that continued until a new tariff was approved, and then you have a scenario 2, which then takes the approved tariff from the 1st of April. So I think it will be important to just indicate which scenario is appropriate and why, so that for future applications, then the licensee or any other licensee is able to follow that guidance. But in this instance, we just provided those two scenarios, and it's not clear which scenario is actually appropriate. And I would have thought that probably scenario 1 is appropriate, because that's you're taking the tariff as approved up until a point where a new tariff has been applied for. So for me, I think it's probably helpful just to show which scenario would be appropriate for future application purposes. And then on paragraph 26, the smoothing of the clawback. Again, there for me, because in the in the previous section, you spoke of the revenue clawback, and now in this particular under this particular heading from paragraph 26, you're then talking of the total clawback. So I think it will be important just to indicate what that particular clawback is based on, whether it's volume differentials, whether it's operating cost differentials, or whatever it is, whatever factor that we are considering, because we're just talking of a clawback without indicating what clawback are we talking about, what is it based on. And then paragraph 28 was a bit confusing to me, Chair. I tried to make sense of it and I couldn't, especially the second sentence that starts with however, considering the fact that this application is for approval of a tariff applied for, any smoothing of the clawback effected by NERSA would lead to disapproval of the tariff applied for. I just couldn't make sense of that statement. Maybe if I could be clarified exactly what do we mean, and what's the intention there, but it doesn't really. I just couldn't make sense of it, Chair. Probably that's just the whole paragraph 28, but especially that particular statement. And then table 4, I think we just need to change the heading there, because that's not the revenue clawback. The heading of table 4. It was a bit confusing when I read it, but then I think it's just the correct heading. And then under volume projections, and that's on paragraph 49. Yeah, I think we also, as we always say, that I think the team just needs to state whether you agree with the assumptions that are being made by the licensee on projected volumes, and what your views are in that regard. And if you agree with those views, I think it's important just to state that. And then the actual RFD, starting from page 5 of 25, I think there's a numbering issue there. If we go to paragraph 10, and then it jumps to paragraph 63, 64, then back to 11. Maybe if we can just correct that, the actual RFD. And then I wasn't quite sure whether land rehabilitation was actually there was any consideration made in this application for land rehabilitation. That's all from my side, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sibanda. Hope Madam Bogo, you've noted this. May you please then, with your team and the assistance for whoever that you would want to call in, please respond to the questions. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, members, for the questions. Starting with Mr. Gumede's questions. Chairperson, the Act and the regulation actually does not prescribe whether it should be a throughput or a storage tariff. What normally happens is that the tariff design is aligned to the licensee's actual business case. For instance, licenses such as BTT, VOPEC, apply for storage tariffs, which are based on which would normally be the tariff in rand per cubic meter per month. But then for Transnet, we have throughput tariffs because they are based on the rand cents per liter, and there is no period prescribed for that. So we are normally guided by the licensee's business case and their application, underpinned by their operations. So in this case, this is a throughput tariff, and the regulations and the Act do not prescribe this particular matter. It actually. And then coming to the questions by Mr. Sibanda, the storage and the pipeline tariff applications together. So it was initially filed in September, and then following our request for additional information, Transnet then amended its application and submitted an indication much later in the process. So that's what led to the delay in processing that application. So the actual application that was decided upon was filed much later in the process. However, side, it was processed within the 6 months. We will update the submission to indicate that. And then the clawback relating to the preceding multi-year tariff would then be split into the 3 financial years, which has caused a spike in the tariffs applied for. So what we is the total clawback, rather. It's not just revenue clawback relating to volumes. So it's the total clawback for the preceding 3 years being claimed in. So what they normally do in the pipelines application, they do not apply for the smooth. They only gives NESA an illustration of how to smoothen any clawbacks that are claimed. So they did the same even for this application. And when we met with Transnet, we indicated that it would be difficult for NESA to explain there in paragraph 26, Chairperson. And paragraph 28, sorry, paragraph 28. That's what we're trying to explain there. We will fix the title of table 4. Apologies for that. The recommended decision. But then under the circumstances and the challenges surrounding the facility, we do also support the volumes projected by Transnet, and we'll fix the numbering issue on the RFD, which we noted. The land rehabilitation, Transnet actually has a provision, a financial provision for land rehabilitation. Chairperson, Mission Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw Madam Massetti's hand came up. But Madam Massetti, if you've got anything to say, ma'am, over to you.
us to really help us look into this risk of high use to make sure that they are accountable for share on the risk of not achieving the volumes. Otherwise, we will forever have high clawbacks. We have these high clawbacks for trans. I wanted to just find out so that we look at even if we were to approve and we smoothen it, the fact remains that there's an inherent risk, efficiencies in the cost that are claimed by the licensees. But I'm not seeing the value of the volume to the licensees so that at least they take that into consideration. But also, important chairperson to try and if in the previous percent should not hold them rather to that tariff that was achieved, how they're going to make sure that they achieve the tariff, at least so I'm a bit worried about that, chairperson. And then the second thing that I wanted to find out, chairperson, we are required to take in the methodology. So when you don't approve and you then have a particular way of assessing them is different by more than 10% from that of the licensee. Are we not then? We want an amendment unit.
Thank you very much, Madam. I give you, Madam Bog, an opportunity to respond. Then we can move towards the.
However, I sit there and say nothing about it for a while. Just take a decision on review, and they will always win, because we did not have the power to do what we are supposed to. What I mean by it is that I'm seriously concerned, Chair, and I thought I would raise it again today. However, what if I'm clear in respect of this particular application? It seems there are two issues here. There is firstly the increase that, from the previously approved number in terms of just the throughput tariff. From the previously approved number to the number that they are now applying for, which is the 30.56 cents per litre. Now, I think for me, in a pipeline, and it's an integral part of the pipeline system, and that if somebody then hogs the space when they're receiving a slug, and they hold this rather than use it for receiving and then transmitting it further. Transmitting the product in a pipeline rather than using it to store product for indefinite periods. Should they not be and coming up with something that talks about a penalty? Because clearly that could also be deemed as somebody that is hogging space somebody else. So that is the thing that plays in my head. But the issue, if Transnet system is intended to be an integrated system that transport fuels that were not intended. Firstly, it would have a potential for what it was intended to do. Should we not be considering a penalty that of an incorrect use of the storage facility? So that is the issue. And the question for me is, can a licensee actually change midstream in terms of that if TM1, for instance, uses that for storage, should be in terms of what is being applied for. For me, the confusion then comes from that in the same manner as other people like VOPEC, how they actually apply for the Transnet for the tariff. I've made 4 points, but kind of convoluted. I'm hoping it's clear to say here, and therefore to then say, can we split this decision, which is
subject to the concurrence of the regulation of the verge, where there is convergence with regard to how they are dealt with, because even product, there's an expectation that it's not stored on the utilization. I think by just giving an explanatory note separate as to how best to deal with it, and try also to link kind of explained in your that Mr. Kumede is talking to regarding portion the pipeline, the whole Transnet system of the pipeline, as well as this storage facility. And I also would be Madam Masetti's comments regarding approval vis-a-vis the non-approval, so to say. I think that soon after these discussions, irrespective of the ultimate decision on this, there is obviously a need for NERSA to engage with the Transnet in terms of sorting out clear, because there is also some of the things that are not coming out that clear, the issues of the volume, what sort of volume risk factors, as well as the integration of the system with the pipeline system. So for me to say, immediately after this, there should be an engagement for if say submission is put, an immediate engagement with Transnet so that a new application can be put forth. Taking all of these into consideration and make them as crystal clear, please. I'll leave it at that. And any comments from your side, Madam, responses, Madam Bogo, Madam Twa?
Okay, go ahead. I'll come after you.
All right. Chair, please bear with me if I missed a lot of what you said.
Where there are gaps, I will let you know so we can quickly move towards the conclusion of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there's a question on the volume risk sharing mechanism in terms of where we are with that yet. So we are still in the consultation stage on that matter. A discussion document, which the closing date for submitting written comments is the 5th, and convene a public hearing if need be, and then have a final decision taken on that. So only after the decision has been taken, we'll be able to the second question from Ms. Masetti with regards to does not approve a tariff that is applied for by a licensee. So in that the latest approved tariff, I think there's in fact that says the application or the tariff by Transnet, if it would be requested by Transnet, if the tariff is approved. So regulation in how we set or approved for a penalty as opposed to the incremental tariff structure that it has explored, opposed to the tariff allows the licensee to, for instance, recoup, invest, to even consider that, because it is not even based on a formula back to the committee.
Would be seeking, and we should be very clear with that as to what then element being included. So you need to be able to look at that. So when you with this, it is very clear that you are dealing with the tariff structure change and what it entails, and look at the merits and demerits thereof. Will then differ based on the, including also the risk factors, noting also what Madam Masetti has put on the meeting chat. If you can just respond, members are just like us. What is put on the timeline on the meeting chat?
Yes, Chairperson. So with regards to the workshop, request a workshop with members.
I think as outlined, you need just to have a paper. I think Madam Yokwane has in some of this when we're looking at the mechanisms, and therefore if together with your team you can work on the issue that I've outlined in terms of the tariff structure, that possible tariff structures, and then regulating the tariff as a throughput tariff or simply a storage tariff, penalty clauses, if you can just be able other applicants, and the issue of changing from one structure to another as to how that thing to say from your side.
And no, Chairperson applying, but as Ms. Bogo has indicated, will then, after the decision is made here, then have a further engage post scenarios, and the workshop is also support that.
Okay, because it should not just be endless discussions. We need to be able to get to a new item with regard to workshopping the issues that have emanated into here, which is for the pipelines April 2023 to 31st March 2024, and also to approve the decision and reasons for decision document attached to subject to the incorporation of the enhancement put forth by members in this. By show of hands, if you do support this recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Kumede, Madam Simane, Advocate Stole. Advocate Stole, are you there? Okay, I do support, and then we may then proceed. So this then concludes.
Chairperson?
Yes, yes.
I supported the decision, but I guess on proviso that the direction that you've given is still going to be taken into account going forward. Thanks.
Yes, that's exactly that, Mr. Kumete. Thanks. Then this terminal, the document, but I must say that from my side, I didn't experience the same problems through the documents. Over to you. Oh, Madam Advocate Stole, I see your hand is up.
Chairperson, sorry, I'm Peter. It's hanging. I do support the decision on the item that has just been concluded. Thank you.
Unmute and confirm that. Without then any further,
is the BOPEC, Oryx Energies, WASA, and Shell Downstream. Mr. Mapodi will assist in of this item, and we've just combined them just to make it they have complied with most of the requirement for the allocation mechanism.